Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this electronic bidding webinar. Before we get started, just a couple notes about Zoom. If you're having any audio issues and you need to adjust, you can switch over to your phone audio. You can see on that there's a little video going on. Switch your phone audio by going to the highest listed number and then entering the meeting and participant ID. And then the other thing is we do have captions available down at the bottom of your screen. So if you would like closed captions, you can just click that button. That will enable the captions for you. And then there is, if you're having any other support issues, down at the very bottom, there is this phone number 206-625-1300 extension 19 if you need any further help. Finally, the chat is closed, but we are going to do a Q&A session at the end. So throughout or during the Q&A session, if you have any questions, feel free to hit that Q&A button, type in your question, and we will try to get to as many questions as we can during the Q&A session. All right. So the purpose of today's webinar is to understand how beneficial it would be for MRSC Rosters public agencies to have an electronic bidding component added to the MRSC Rosters. This is something that we've been looking into when we want to hear from you as public agency members. So we want to talk to you a little bit about the concept, and then we will be sending out a survey, hopefully tomorrow morning, to further gauge interest. So we'll do a brief introduction of the three of us. We'll talk about why we're talking about electronic bidding now, and also what is electronic bidding in case anyone needs a little bit of further background, why MRSC is thinking about adding this as a service to the rosters, what the features would look like if we did add this, and then our next steps in terms of the process of potentially launching this service, and then we'll leave time for a Q&A. So a quick introduction, my name is Maggie Dalzell. I am the MRSC Rosters Program Coordinator. I have been in this role since April of 2021, so last year. Josh?
Yep, I'm Josh Klicka, Procurement Consultant here at MRSC. I joined in October of 2021.
And I'm John Rose. I'm the MRSC Finance Manager. I've been in this position for over 4 years. So welcome, everyone.
So I assume most of you here already know what MRSC is and MRSC Rosters, and a lot of you are probably MRSC Rosters members. But just in case, MRSC Rosters is a service of the private nonprofit MRSC. It has been supporting Washington local governments for the past 80 years through trusted consultation, research, training, and collaboration. MRSC also provides services to a few special district associations through contracts, and we offer fee-based services like the MRSC Rosters. And MRSC Rosters then is an associated but separate service of MRSC, and it's a membership roster service that connects businesses with over 600 public agencies in Washington state. Our participating agencies contract with business members for small public works projects, consulting opportunities, and goods and services through the small works, consultant, and vendor rosters.
Let's talk about why electronic bidding is a topic right now. The pandemic's created the opportunity to utilize electronic bidding. Some of the reasons: smaller staff, both from the agency perspective and potential bidders. Electronic bidding provides the opportunity to better engage the suppliers to receive responses. And this is a remote environment in many cases. Many are all involved in the bidding process or working remotely, and it's harder to manage the traditional physical bid process with hard copy bid documentation. Agencies are looking for new ways to handle bid openings. We at MRSC are seeing agencies handling this process in multiple ways. Electronic bid submittals in some cases, and also holding webinars for bid openings. During research we've seen at MRSC, there's multiple software options within the market that can provide electronic bidding solutions. And we've seen a potential for electronic bidding software to integrate with the MRSC Rosters program. I'm going to provide next an overview of what we mean by electronic bidding in the purpose of today's webinar. When we talk about electronic bidding, it's a digital platform that posts solicitations, provides the ability to receive and organize your responses, has the ability to calculate the low bid, has reporting functionality and award management. When you compare it to our current Rosters program, our Rosters program structured today has the ability to identify suppliers, but that other functionality does not exist. Integrating an electronic bidding platform provides the ability for bid notification, bid evaluation, and that award management. There's also an opportunity for many other benefits, which we'll discuss next. Electronic bidding increases the speed of the bidding process. It's streamlined, it's consistent solicitation process, and it'll have access to all the businesses on the Rosters program as it exists today. Reduces mistakes. The creation of the solicitations and the responses are all consistent for both agencies and bidders. There's flexibility in the award process. There's automatic calculation of scoring elements. There's also bid locking for that secure award process and sealed bids. We also should see increased participation for businesses because there's an ease of submittal of bids online from multiple platforms. There's access from laptops, tablets, and phones in an electronic bidding platform. We'd love to hear from you next. So what we're going to do is provide a poll question to everyone in attendance today. Our question: what's your level of interest in electronic bidding?
Great, and hopefully folks can see the responses here. Let's see, I can see it pull up on mine. Maybe I can describe it here. So right now, 15% we show already have an electronic bidding platform, 3% currently shopping for a provider, 82% considering it, and 0% not interested at all. So very robust population of attendees today considering looking into this platform. That's encouraging to hear. And certainly for the folks that already have one, we'll be interested to speak with you as well. All right, moving on. Why is MRSC considering offering this right now? So we've been discussing this opportunity for over a year, and we really see that electronic bidding might be a natural extension of our current program offering. Right now, as Josh mentioned, we're providing a connection between contractors and agencies. And so then, the ability to then help agencies post solicitations they have, gather the responses to it, and help with the awarding process. That's a space that we're already tangential to. And so, that we have a large amount of experience to draw on for best practices in those spaces. The second major point is economy of scale. Again, we've got close to 650 agencies as members of MRSC Rosters. So there's an opportunity here to try and bring this type of service at a lower cost than agencies might be able to negotiate individually. And we also have an opportunity to pre-vet a structure and an implementation versus having individual agencies try and go through that effort on their own. So, we know what structure works best for trying to operate within Washington State, and we're hoping if this moves forward, we can help provide that as a streamlined service. So let's talk about what exactly is this offering that we're talking about. So we're talking about an electronic bidding platform that covers the small works consultant vendor rosters, and agencies would be able to opt into this service, or just retain their current level of service that just provides the connection of which and the maintenance of a roster for their different categories. We would be looking into a tiered pricing structure similar to what agencies see today on their current roster service. So we're still looking at what the specific pricing would be, but a tiered model is, we feel confident how we would move forward through this. And then it would also have an annual renewal component similar to the existing rosters platform. So let's talk about what this process would look like in real time here. So, and after I talk about what this proposed process is, I'll do a comparison against what the current process is and where some of the automation comes into play against what is a manual process right now. So right now, folks log in to the MRSC Rosters service and trying to identify which businesses they're going to reach out to and to solicit. In this proposed process, you would log into Rosters. There'd be a series of templates that you can draw on to be able to help create your solicitation. When we've talked with some of our partners, a large percentage of the solicitation can be moved from a prior solicitation into your new solicitation. And so this is where we think having a template library to draw on would be very beneficial. And this might consist of, just templates that individual agencies create themselves, or eventually may contain a library of, other solicitations that other agencies are using. And then this is where the integration with our existing platform would come into play. You would run a roster search. You would identify those businesses that you're looking to solicit, and then you'd be able to one-click invite those businesses to participate in your solicitation. And then, Josh mentioned this ability for businesses to upload their responses digitally. And this, I think, is a critical component here, because this is where the participation increase happens. This is where the reduction in mistakes is going to be most beneficial, because this is what's going to keep math errors from happening as businesses submit. This is where you're going to make sure that retainage and insurance is uploaded, because to complete the solicitation you're going to have to upload those. So this is what we think will provide a clean response to your solicitation. Then as we look at the next sections, there will be an automatic closing of the solicitation when you identify when that date is. You'll get a chance to evaluate all the uploaded material. And then in the award, you can structure this to be a line item bid or just a bottom line. Or if you're working on the consultant roster, you can choose to create a scoring method for evaluation. And that again is going to be beneficial from a public records perspective, from just a best practices perspective. And so when we look at the current process, you're manually creating your solicitation. Again, for some folks, maybe they're able to draw on templates just ad hoc, but this would be something that you could use on a digital platform that would make that process a lot smoother. Right now, again, you're having to draw an extract from the current MRSC roster service and send out manually emails to the businesses you're looking to solicit to. And then vendors are having to, download those forms, print them out, fill it out, and then send out, their manila folder into the mail. Sometimes, depending on the speed, they may have to actually physically drive it to a Dropbox. And then there's always the awkwardness of when contractors have missed the submission deadline, you have to reject, identify and manually reject the late respondents. And then when you're evaluating, bonding, insurance, certification type documents, you're having to, okay, let me gather up those documents ad hoc here, and let me see if I can match the requirements to who's submitted here. And then you're having to physically open up the submitted packets and then manually calculate an award winner. So I go through that just again to highlight, we think there's efficiency to be had here, a reduction of mistakes that, if you can mitigate, critical errors happening on your projects, that's a huge value. And then just the participation that this opens up, it makes it a lot easier to reach out to more folks and to process those responses much more swiftly. So with that, we'll pause for another poll question. If you're considering this, what kind of budget are you envisioning for electronic bidding platforms? And in the question, you'll see here a range 0 to 5,000, 6 to 10, 11 to 15, or over 16,000. And we're hoping to get a sense here of what price point agencies will be able to bear as we're trying to structure this. So I'll pause for a few seconds and we'll see what kind of responses we get. All right, so let's read off the results here. So 64% looking between 0 and 5,000, 14% 6,000 to 10,000, 7% 11,000 to 15, and 14% above 16,000. So in the introduction, Maggie mentioned we'll be following up with a survey. So this is great initial information. We'll be looking to follow up with a little bit more detail on this particular data point in the day to come here. So thank you for that. And we'll go ahead and Maggie's going to talk about next steps in our approach.
Great. So moving forward, like we mentioned, we'll be sending out a survey, hopefully tomorrow morning. That's the goal. The survey will be going out to all of you who are here today and who registered, and then I'll also be sending it out to all of our public agency member contacts. So there'll be 2 ways you can get it. We'll also be sending out a recording of this if you want to share with other folks on staff or listen again. You'll have 2 weeks to complete the survey, and we really do value your responses on this because your needs are really what's going to help shape this program. When we do have the survey results, we will be communicating kind of the outcomes to you all as well. And then on the survey, there is an option for those who are interested in maybe participating in a pilot project. Will be contacting you. We're not quite sure when that will go. We're hoping maybe March or April that we can start this. And then after the pilot, we will do an evaluation again to see if this is something that we should be moving forward with or not. And we will update our public agencies at that point as well. All right. So we're going to jump into the Q&A section. A reminder, I see some questions have already come in, but if you have questions, go ahead and click that Q&A button and we will try to get to as many that we can. So let's roll into the Q&As. I see a fair number of questions that are kind of along similar veins, so I might be grouping them together so I don't read your exact question. Hopefully it does get answered. One question is, are we planning on building this platform ourselves, or will we be working with a provider, and do we have someone that we want to work with already?
So the answer to that is we're evaluating which option is going to work best. So I will say we are evaluating a decision point on whether building or partnering is preferred. We have been talking with some partners, and we like a lot of the features that we see from them, and so we're excited about the potential of partnering with some folks, and we're definitely playing that out. But that's part of our pilot and our evaluation process, and so we're hoping to come back and with a definitive answer after our pilot.
I'm seeing a lot of questions about whether this would be limited to just rosters bids, if it would be open to full bids, if it and if it's just for the small works, or if it would be for all 3 rosters. So can we go over that again, John? Or
Yeah.
Josh?
So that is another evaluation point we're going through in the pilot. At the moment, we're leaning towards this as an offering for the small works roster with an ability to upgrade, to handle all versions of bidding. But again, this is where we want to take that decision point through the pilot and see if there's a logic that drives us to limit it to the rosters or keep it open more broadly.
And then to add on to that, when we talk about the rosters program, there's 3 elements to the rosters program. You've got your small works roster, your vendor roster, and your consultant roster. So what we've been discussing is the first level to the customers is anything in the rosters program. So anything in those 3 roster programs would be in this bidding platform. So you'd be able to access small works, construction projects, consultant, and vendor. And based on customer need, we may want to look at considering a level that could open it up to everything, as John mentioned. So our first level would be anything in the rosters program. That would be one program offering. We're considering maybe tiering it, but we'd have to look at that further.
Are you anticipating vendors submit proposals by uploading documents and or keying their proposals directly into the system?
I think both. So we've heard a lot of positive feedback around being able to have a line item matrix in the system where vendors can key in directly, but we also want to allow just for direct upload of a submitted PDF as well. So I think having the flexibility of both options helps for different needs on the contractor side, but positive response out of both concepts.
Is there an opportunity to include post-award components as well, like tracking progress towards meeting prevailing wage requirements or sending notices of project completion?
Let's see here. I think we'll have to, I think the answer to that is yes, but before I fully confirm that, I'll have to say that that's something we'll have to take a look at if that's going to be available. But I think the answer to that is yes.
Will the platform allow for businesses that still do mail or physical drop-off of bids?
That's an interesting question. We will have to consider what implications that has, and where there's a value to keep certain parts physical and other parts. I think the answer to that is if you received a physical submission, you may post opening upload what, if a particular vendor is like, I don't know how to do this, I'm just going to send you a physical packet. You may just have to evaluate that against the electronic calculation and upload that post your opening. Yeah,
I'm thinking that could potentially be an agency policy that has an electronic bidding platform, of whether you would allow that or not is my first thought.
Yeah, so I think the name of the game would be flexibility to allow that, but then for agencies to make a decision on what they will or won't allow.
For the award automatically sent function, is this a notification for us as the agencies or to the bidders? And is it something that we could choose to not use? Yes.
So again, that flexibility, some of the models we're seeing, the most automated would be calculating the award and sending automatic notification of that. If you wanted to turn that off, then you would not enable the automatic notification, and you might host a Zoom meeting and announce the award at that point.
Would there be any cost to the businesses to download documents or to bid?
No, or let me say, that's not our current intention. right now. Like I mentioned, we're going to go through the pilot here, but in our current thinking, that's not what we're considering.
No, I would say though, there is a cost to the businesses upfront that already exists, because if we're looking at this in the rosters program, the businesses that would be included in this process have already, signed up in the rosters program. So once they're included in the rosters program, they'd be available in this online bidding platform as an additional piece of information to that question.
Yeah. Just a quick mention here. This pilot project we're going through, this is where we're exploring some of these decisions. So some of the answers to this may be driven by what features drive which price point. And so, we're trying to weigh the desire to keep a price point at a level of affordability for agencies against what mechanisms steer that up or down. So where I am offering a maybe on some of these questions or a not definitive answer, that's where that comes from.
If an agency was using this for full bids, would local advertisements still need to occur outside the platform?
Let's see here.
Yes.
Yes. Sorry. Go ahead, Josh. You'll have the better answer here.
Yeah, when it's a formal competition where it's going out to the full market, what other agencies have done in these situations with an online bidding platform, they've still done a notice and done the notice and then provided information on how to access it in their online bid platform.
Could we still opt to be part of the roster without using the bidding option?
Yes. Yeah. So that we were listing in the concept, we intend to offer rosters as it's currently offered, and this as an add-on.
You indicated that organizations can create their own templates. Would the template be open to all users, or is it specifically only used by the creator?
So this was a concept that was tossed out with one of our partners who's doing this, and we think there's some potential here to share across agencies. So we do need to evaluate some of the nuance of that, but that's an exciting idea of the ability to share across agencies what solicitations were built and what the awards were. But
I guess a follow-up question is, will agencies be able to use their own templates? So
again, we're evaluating that. That would be the hope, is that we can allow for that.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to add on to that. When we talk about templates, not knowing the specifics of the question, if you have, let's say, a bid template that you're using now, like in a Word doc, those could be uploaded. You upload it potentially as a Word or PDF. So you already have a template library. You just post that into the bid system.
So many agencies have approved solicitation bid templates and specs already. Will we be able to incorporate our documents into the documents MRSC provides? I guess this is a similar question to what we just answered.
Yeah. So reiterate Josh's point. I think you can just upload that and then leverage that anytime you create a new one.
Will submitted bids be sealed until the close date? Yes,
that's a key function, and that's what allows this to go digital, is there isn't the ability to open the bids.
Yeah. If the platform calculates bid results, would the platform be able to manage requests for proposals that may award based on criteria in addition to cost?
Yes. It allows for both low bid and scoring criteria, and you have the flexibility to create your own scoring criteria. So we think that's a really neat feature where you can, you have the flexibility depending on the circumstance, whether you're leveraging the consultant or vendor roster to identify what makes up that criteria.
We don't bid out many MRSC small works projects per year. This program sounds great. What would you recommend for ways to get a city council on board?
Let's see here. Josh, you want to help me think through this one a little bit?
Yeah, one of the things I would say to that, if I was talking to my counsel, is providing the ease of participation. There's an efficiency there and also a potential to have more competition on your projects that you'd be putting through the system. And it would be consistent for businesses to be able to access them and then provide responses back. So I think that's an efficiency and something that would be beneficial. And I think if I was talking to the council, you'd be able to talk to potentially some sustainability being paperless.
You know, I think the reduction of mistakes, I mean, again, lower volume means, you know, lower opportunities to make mistakes, but sometimes it just takes one really bad one to make you second guess if you should be doing stuff manually.
How can we guarantee that bids will be opened at the same time? We must hold public bid openings for total transparency and assurance that there is no favoritism by opening bids ahead of the official bid time.
Yeah, so the program locks down the ability to open bids until the set due date. And so, you know, again, you can leverage a couple models here. For instance, you may say, we're going to hold a Zoom meeting where, you know, we'll let everybody see the opening at that point, the agency included, or you can set out an automated email that says, like, at this point, everybody will be emailed automatically at the same time with who the award winner was. And you can click on a link and go see the details.
How many staff would have access to the evaluation section of the program?
I think the agency would set that.
How does this differ from Procureware?
Let's see here. Is that a specific other program? Are you familiar with that, Josh?
So yeah, I believe that's another electronic bidding system.
So
I'm familiar with the specific one.
Yeah. Let's see how to phrase this. Right now we're going through an evaluation of, you know, if we're going to, you know, move through a partnership model. And so I don't think we can really speak to like a comparison yet between partners. What we're evaluating is, you know, some of the potential features, which ones we want to drive to make available in this platform. So probably later on in the process, we'd be able to give kind of a feature by feature comparison.
Could you talk about the demographics participation function of the platform?
So there's a reporting capability, and there's certainly been some discussion at the legislative level about reporting on who agencies are reaching out to participate in projects. So that's not a requirement for local government right now, but you know, whether this is voluntary or eventually becomes a requirement, this would give some of that reporting at your fingertips to you know, where your vendors are, you know, identifying as OMWB certified, where they're identifying, you know, self-identifying as women, minority owned, veteran owned. You would have some of that reporting at your fingertips to be able to respond to what's the percentage of outreach to those different demographics.
This could help with the inevitable math errors in bids, but there are also some responsiveness issues that are more discretionary, such as minimum bid amounts that could be waived. Are you considering some type of manual evaluation by the agency, or all just automatic with no user involvement?
Let's see here, Josh. Yeah.
The systems we're looking at have non-cost factors involved, where there's probably, as an example, I could see where you'd have like a required document submittal, and you can make some parts of it required that are cost related. So these systems have that ability to add, mandatory submittals of non-cost documents. That's a way to address that, I believe.
Definitely worth, that's something we'll be walking through in the pilot and the evaluation. So I think we'll be looking for some additional feedback from some of you around how that can be most useful.
How would small vendors be encouraged or supported to participate in the electronic bidding platform, given that small and micro businesses may not have staff technologically capable of using it?
So I think our hope is to make this as user-friendly as possible. Like in some of our interactions and research, we've seen a greater barrier around trying to actually get the time to submit a proposal versus technological capability being a barrier. So most of us have, know to be able to click on a link to fill out a form that the link takes you to. And so, if that's, user friendly, we think most businesses can follow that process, and that's of greater benefit than those that struggle to participate because of, geographic distance, or, I just need for this to take a lot less time than it has been taking in the past.
The roster can be free for contractors if they don't do the enhanced membership, and can they still bid electronically?
Sorry, can you say that one more time?
Sorry, if businesses don't do the paid membership, can they still bid electronically? The paid rosters membership.
Yeah, I mean, that's something we're looking into, but for, in our current platform, it's a closed system where, you have a nominal fee to get on the rosters list. So I think what I can say on that is that's our current model. We'll have to evaluate if there'd be a desire to open that up more broadly, but that would be a challenge to our current model. So something to take a look at.
Would you be able to choose which projects you would process with e-bidding and which you would process under your existing method?
I mean, I think you can. I mean, there's probably always the ability to do something manually. It may come down to your agency policy, whether you grant yourself that or if you say everything should go through this process.
How would bid bonds be handled?
Let's hear, Josh, you want to speak to this?
I think one of the options could be that that's just a submittal that they've achieved that. I think there's a check that you would do, that you'd have that as a required submittal, that they provide proof of that. I think is what we've seen just looking at different options. I think we don't have a specific answer to that yet because, once we look at what the solution is, I think that's a component of it. I think it's a great question, but that's one of those, there's maybe different ways to approach that.
Would we be able to see what businesses are looking at our bid on the platform before the bid opening?
We have seen that as a feature, yes. So, there's a ability to see who you sent the solicitation to, who's opened it, who has responded to the solicitation. So we've seen that that's an available feature.
And then would the platform be able to reject incomplete bids or evaluate the insurance bonds, et cetera? And if we saw those, would we be able to inform the bidder?
I think the answer to that is yes. We've also seen that as a feature in some of the platforms we're taking a look at. So, something again, I'll reiterate here is, as we're looking across partners and as we're looking at the cost of various modules, we are going to try and piece together like which features make the most sense for the lowest price point. So again, when I'm answering questions on features, this is what is technologically available. And then in our pilot, we'll be taking a look at how to group best features for best price point. But in my answers, I am specifying like what we know is available as a feature.
Will the fee schedule take into account if an agency wants to use electronic bidding for small works, public works, but not for consultant RFPs or materials vendors?
Again, I think similar to the question of, can jobs be processed manually? I think this would just come down to an agency decision of, what your council wants you to do electronically versus what they authorize you to do manually. So that seems like an agency decision, but technologically, yes.
I think right now, when we look at our fee structure, what we've been talking about now is offering it for the rosters program for all 3 rosters. We haven't, at this point, other than this question coming up, talked about breaking out different fee schedules to access any of the 3 rosters at this point. But I think, it's a question we can look at.
Will there be the ability to send bid amendments and answer questions for the entire roster?
Yes.
Would the platform keep all records of historical bids? Would we have access to those records for review and or audit purposes?
Yes and yes. So again, this is one of the primary efficiency and risk mitigation components here. Like, you've got everything contained from your historical bids in one location. So versus now, maybe spread across email, put in file drawers. You may think like, okay, great, I can just pull this up and see everything that's happened for the last 5 years versus I have no idea, it's in a cabinet somewhere.
Will the fee for the platform be annual, monthly, or per use basis?
I think we're considering annually, similar to our current platform.
I'm getting a lot of questions about which platforms we are considering. Would you like to say anything about that?
I may take a pass on discussing that for the moment. I think that's something we'll keep internally for the benefit of those partners that we're talking about.
Just because there were a lot of questions, I wanted to mention that we were not ignoring them.
Yeah.
Let's see. Will there be a presentation after the pilot program is completed in order to discuss what worked and what didn't?
Yes. I think we had mentioned a line in there about communication after the survey, but yes, that makes a lot of sense to follow up with this audience in this same format. So yep, that's a great idea, and we'll do that.
One point of feedback is that many of our roster contractors are on there because it's free. Our agency values that option, that it's not a requirement to pay. So just follow up to the comment about businesses paying.
Yep.
How could people submit a bid even if they weren't invited to bid?
So this is part of our evaluation. So, the small works roster process, we manage the legal notice that says agency X is using the small works roster through MRSC, and then, to maintain that roster, you need to join, make a specific effort to join that roster. So that creates a curated list, and then MRSC, does a series of evaluations on behalf of the agency to make sure that they're a valid business to include on your roster. That's different than the full bid process where you may be opening up to all businesses in general. And Josh, I pause for a comment for you.
Right. And in today's current environment with the rosters program, this situation does occur. And when this happens, I think it'd be very similar, even with electronic bidding, is when you send these out, even in the electronic process, are you going to allow businesses to get on the roster, which would put them on the electronic bid opportunity later? I know agencies will sometimes make a decision whether it's only if they're on the roster at the time of the bid or if they'll allow them afterward. I think even with the electronic platform, it's the same consideration.
But I think this is where outreach for you as an agency comes into play, like and where MRSC tries to assist as well, is to make sure that we're reaching out to any businesses that are interested in providing service for distinct categories.
Who does the review of the bid proposal and verifying that required documents are included in the proposal?
That will be your agency staff. Yeah, MRSC won't play a role in any kind of distinct project evaluation. So we will be a facilitator of the platform, not of any project components.
What would be our visibility to see other agencies' bids to consider any potential piggyback options before starting our own electronic bid submission?
That's something we'd have to evaluate. Yeah, I think some of the questions there is, the desire or lack of desire for agencies to allow other agencies to see their solicitation information. So I think in the pilot, that's something we evaluate. What level of visibility agencies would want to grant to partner agencies.
Only bidders who attend a mandatory pre-bid meeting can bid. How is that addressed?
Let's see here. That's an interesting question. Thoughts, Josh?
Yeah, I think it would depend on the system settings. You might, I think it would depend on, system settings there. If you're going to limit a mandatory pre-bid, you'd have to have two different levels of notifications there, I think, in an electronic bid setting.
Yeah, I mean, one of the features we've seen is you can create your own, pass-fail criteria. So, if you just said, hey, I had 10 folks put a submission in, but only 5 showed up to the pre-meeting, you may then check off, well, these are the only 5 that can move forward in the process. So in my mind, that's how you might address that. But
would the contractors who submitted bids be able to view other bids that were received for the project after opening?
I think, again, that's probably an evaluation of the pilot, whether that's a desired feature. So, I mean, again, that can technologically happen. We'll have to see if, there may be pushback from the business community on whether they want to make that publicly available or not. But that's something we'll play out with both businesses and agencies around if that's really a desired feature.
How would this account for bidder responsibility to perform the work versus just responsiveness to the bid documents?
Go ahead, Josh.
Well, I think that's where you have some things that might be pass-fail, like there's a required submittal, and then maybe there's another level where you pass or fail it once you review it, much like you would in a hard copy environment. I think it's just how you would set those pieces up for evaluation criteria in the system.
Yeah. I think the theme here is there are some components of evaluation that still need, a human involvement, and you're just using this within a system to create a pass-fail component, and that helps, record that for your records and makes that, standardized so that you can defend that in your award.
How much ability would an agency have to customize that tool, or will it be limited?
Again, that's something we're going to have to evaluate. And that may distinctly drive, a particular price point and how much flexibility we would ask of any type of provider. So we'll have to take that as something to evaluate. Unknown is the answer, the short answer.
Will the platform include a management component during the course of the resulting contract, renewals, amendments, or is it strictly for the procurement process?
Let's see, what do we mean by management?
Like, once you've awarded like the contract management, like a contract management module.
Oh, yeah. So there are platforms that provide that. And again, in our evaluation, what we're attempting to do is to try and bundle the most popular concepts here, and then potentially leave space for individual agencies to tag on additional components or additional levels at their discretion. again, that will be a part of what we evaluate, but we're driving to bundle the most popular, lowest cost package that we can come up with. And we hope to allow flexibility to add on those other things as individual agencies want it.
Would different departments in the same agency be able to use different sets of features, or does the entire agency get the same features?
That's a good question. I don't think we know that distinctly. I think from some of the conversations we have, I know that that's technologically available, but we'll have to talk. We'll have to follow up on that question, I think.
Yeah, that question seems to tie into like user role. So it probably depended on how each individual agency account was set up. You know, essentially, is there an account manager, and then different levels of interactions in the system? Is there different access points that they can get to or not?
Yeah, there's a basic level of control of just like, well, I don't give access to the system except to X folks. But then that next level is, well, I want to give them limited access. So it really comes down to what is the limitation we're talking about. And so that comes back to that customization question. So I would imagine there's a level of customization that we can negotiate, but it probably needs to be something that's, identified for all members.
I think hopefully we caught all the questions or the general ideas of questions that people were asking.
Maybe if we didn't, if anybody felt like their question wasn't answered, maybe you can repost.
Yeah. Many businesses auto-select to be identified with all rosters. Will there be options to trim the roster selection randomly? Selecting all from a roster category often results in a larger audience than our staff may have time to evaluate.
So there's a couple answers to this. One, the statute right now provides for reaching out to 3 to 5 businesses and then rotating through that. So that's one answer there, in that you don't literally have to reach out to every business on your roster. Though allowing for more folks to participate does create more competition and theoretically better pricing. And so one value add out of this platform is it takes the administrative burden out of processing larger amounts of respondents out of the equation. Again, when you looked at that, all those manual steps that you're currently dealing with, it's going to take that from a minutes to an hours conversation to a seconds. And so that may become less of a burden for those that are leveraging an electronic system.
Will the electronic bidding platform allow for drawing uploads, replacing Vxwa?
Josh?
That's one of the features we'd have to consider, because some of the platforms allow for that, some don't. So I think that's just one of those maybes. It's just really looking at how to provide all the pieces there that people may need. So that's one of those maybe features.
Okay. Again, even the questions that are generating maybes, these are very helpful in that we'll be able to take these and take them through the pilot and figure out if this is something that's a critical add to any kind of platform.
I'm not seeing any more questions coming in. Again, if I missed your question, if you want to repost it, but otherwise, I think we've come to the end of the questions.
Yeah. So maybe I'll toggle back to the next steps and we'll just reiterate what those are, and then we can conclude here. So I think Maggie mentioned this before, but we're hoping to get a survey out tomorrow, and we're going to keep that open for 2 weeks. And then we'll have, I anticipate an emailed communication out after the survey, but I think the suggestion of a follow-up webinar as we move after we conclude our pilot effort, we'll take up that suggestion. And that way we'll have a chance to communicate whether we're in a go, no go space and what that evaluation process looked like. But we are definitely in the requirements gathering section of this project. So, again, that's taking a look at what is popular versus what's affordable. And your suggestions today help shape that conversation. So I would say feel free to send us any emails you have if you think of a question post this webinar or through the coming month. And certainly we're looking for those that are interested in helping to pilot this. So, if you have an upcoming project, this may be a great opportunity to try this out and see the benefits that this could bring to your agency.
And again, if you are interested in the piloting, that will be a question in the survey. So let us know in the survey if you're interested in that. That would be the best way to get on board for the pilot.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, everyone. This has been very insightful. Really appreciate your participation today, and we're excited where this offering might take us. So we'll be in touch with you, and thank you.
Thank you.
Great questions today. Thank you.